So, all right, here we go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, tonight on the Doppler Effect Podcast, our guest, a former NFL star turned realtor turned high school football coach. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chris Bober. Chris, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. Good to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. A lot that we can cover, and of course, we've known each other for about the last year now, and through a series of circumstances that allow us to actually work together. But with your career from the NFL to realtor to also, a high school football coach and coaching your own camps and everything, a lot to cover for sure. So Doppler has a follow-up question that kind of leads us into that. So, whoops, here we go.
Chris, you had opportunities in your career to play not only for the New York Giants, but also for the Kansas City Chiefs. Which one of those programs feels more like home?
That's a really, really good question. I would say that, when I was playing, I definitely had, I would say, probably a better experience with the New York Giants. And it isn't anything other than, the organization at the time, right? My first year with the Giants, we got to go to the Super Bowl.
Which
I
had to be
was
an awesome experience.
Yeah, well, it'd been more awesome if we would have won.
Right.
But it was still pretty cool. It was still pretty cool. And at the Giants, I had a really tight group of teammates. And then, I was there for 4 years. I was a free agent and signed with Kansas City with the Chiefs, and I had a good experience with the Chiefs. Don't get me wrong. It's just the organization wasn't in the place where they are now when they're winning
Sure,
Super Bowls,
sure.
and success at that level comes from leadership, and they had great leadership. Um, right now, the Chiefs do, and I had Dick Vermeil for a couple of years, who was a great coach. Herm Edwards didn't have as great of an experience there, and I just would say I just fit in better with the Giants as far as the organization goes. Nowadays, I'm an ambassador for the Chiefs. So as there's like I think 30 of us retired players, we form a board. We do a lot of charity. We go to all the games. We meet every month. We do golf tournaments, different fundraising events. So I'm definitely closer with the Chiefs now. Than I was when I played there, probably even so. So I'm probably more connected to the Chiefs now, but I'd say I still like each organization about the same.
Cool. Let's say Doppler has a tendency, in these questions that Doppler gets, he'll put you on the spot once or twice. But I've always kind of wondered that myself because I knew that you were very still involved with the Chiefs. I mean, we talk, once a week or so, and it seems like every other time we talk, you're off in Kansas City doing something with the Chiefs, which is really cool. But I haven't heard you talk about the Giants a whole lot, so I kind of wondered what was your experience like? Because so for the folks that don't know, you played at UNO as a Maverick in
hmm
college, and then what's that experience like going from being a collegiate athlete to now like getting to live that NFL dream?
Well, I had quite a jump there as far as coming from a Division II program where, I was lucky enough to play on some really good teams at UNO. I was a team captain. I was All-American my junior and senior year, and I was doing really well against Division II competition, and I had all the measurables to go play in the NFL. When it comes to I was 6'5", about 320. I ran like a 4.940, right? And I
Yeah,
could
that's moving
squat
at
over
that size.
yeah, I could squat over 800 pounds, and I had the school record in vertical jump. So, I mean, I was definitely um, physically gifted enough to go at that level, right? Lucky enough to have those genetics, but also work hard. Going to the NFL was quite an eye-opening experience from a kid from South Omaha who's been on a plane once in his life. And the draft in 2000 came, and I was an eighth round draft pick out of
Yeah.
seven, which means I wasn't drafted. Um, I got a chance to pick where I wanted to go from the teams that were interested, and I went to the Giants because they had an offensive line coach who really liked to develop linemen. So I learned a lot my first couple years. Went out there to the Giants in my first year. I played every position, played in every preseason game, and I was the last guy cut
Oh,
off the roster. So I did not make the 53-man roster the beginning of my first year, but I was on the practice squad, which gave me an opportunity to really hone in on working hard and getting better. Didn't have to play in the game, so I can work out twice as much, study twice as much film. And I was fresh, but midway through the season, someone gets hurt, and I bumped up to the active roster for that year, and we ended up going to the Super Bowl, which is awesome experience to do that. And then over the next couple of years, I just continued to develop and get better. I was a starter my third and fourth year there for the Giants, and I would say that that experience is much more mentally stressful and taxing than people realize. Like at that level, of course, there's a physicality to it. You have to be good enough to be there, but the people that make it are the ones who really master the mental side of the game with preparation, being able to make split decisions in the moment and know your assignments. That's by far the biggest obstacle to overcome at that level is the mental aspect of it, because everyone else is good. You're good enough to be there. It's just who can perform and execute under pressure in those games.
Was it a surprise to you going from the collegiate level to the NFL? Like, did you have one of those moments like that oh shit moment? Like, damn, everyone here is really good at what they do. Like, or
Oh yeah.
was it stepping into, was it more of a comfortable step into that, or what was that moment like for you?
I think the biggest difference is that everyone's good at that level,
Yeah.
right? When I might have played at UNO, I might have played a couple guys that were good enough to play in the NFL. But at the NFL level, everyone's good, so you have to perform on every single snap. You can't take any plays off. Um, you know, I had to go against a guy named Michael Strahan every day.
Oh shit.
A lot of people know Michael Strahan from Good Morning America these days, but he's also a Hall of Famer. And they asked me who's the best guy you ever played against. I said, well, he's my teammate, Michael Strahan, and I had to go against him every day. So
That's
there were
awesome.
several moments when he taught me a lot of lessons. But I also learned he's a great human, one of my good friends. I also learned a lot from him. So at that level, it isn't probably as competitive as you think as far as like pettiness. Like, he was my opponent in practice, but we're also teammates. So we worked together to get
Right.
better. He taught me a lot. But going up against a guy like him was definitely one of those moments.
That's got to be, you kind of probably have to have the mindset in a case like that as the old like iron sharpens iron, right? Like, we're still competitors, but we're on the same team that we're working together to make each other better in a case like this. I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, it's pure competition every day, and it's hard to explain to people what it's like. And I'll tell this to my son, my son's in his 20s and stuff like that, and he was like, "Oh, think about taking on the old man." I'm like, "Dude, I used to literally fist fight people every day for in practice. Like it was a war every single day against these unbelievable athletes and competitors, and you had to be on every day. You had to have that mindset to go out there and fight and fight for your job, because even as you get a few years into your career and you start to establish yourself as maybe a starter or something like that, well, they're always looking to replace you with someone that's
Bigger,
younger and
stronger, faster.
Yep, yep. So you're fighting every day. So you learn how to fight, you learn how to compete, and that was one of the biggest things you have to learn how to do is to not take days off, not take a play off. You're being constantly evaluated and judged. I ask people that are listening or watching this, imagine everything you did for your job. It was filmed from three different angles, and every one of your bosses got to watch it. That's what the NFL was, right? Every single practice, every play was filmed. Every individual drill is filmed. You're judged and graded all the time. So it is stressful in that sense to where you always have to show up and compete.
So, and I'm assuming like, was Jen with you were you and Jen together throughout your NFL career? Did you guys meet before or shortly after your NFL career?
Yeah, yeah. So I met my wife Jen in college, and we were engaged as I went into the NFL. We got married between my first and second year. So she was along with me for the journey. The first year, when you go out there as an undrafted free agent from a Division II school, you just don't know if you're going to make the team. So she stayed back home while she was finishing up her school to graduate, and I went
Sure.
off and did that. She'd come visit me once in a while. But then once we got married in July of 2001, after my first season, she came out, and then we were together the rest of the time.
I say I imagine it well, and being able to say I know Jen, that takes a very supportive person to stand behind somebody that has this type of big dream. Not, well, I don't know what it is. Probably what, one in every 50,000 people are going to end up in the NFL. Some crazy number, I'm guessing. Not very many people get the opportunity to go play in the NFL. So to have somebody that stands behind you, and Jen, just an amazing person. And people won't know this until we get into it a little bit more, but Jen was the first person that I interviewed with Nebraska Realty and American Legacy that ultimately allowed us to be working together. So, or me working for you, really is the proper way to say it.
Well, yeah, Jen's an amazing support system, and it does take a different personality to be able to roll with the punches of a very turbulent lifestyle in the NFL because, I was lucky. I really only I was on two teams, right? And then there are guys who travel for several different teams and have to move across the country. I only had to do that once until I retired and came home. But to have someone who can take the brunt of the family work when you go to working 80 hours a week during the season and you're almost completely disconnected from your family because of the stress and the amount of pressure you have. And she was a great support system for that. And, it takes special people to support people who have to, be out there working that hard. And she made my life a lot easier by being able to take up the slack at home.
And so, did you guys kind of have a plan for after the NFL, thinking that you would both end up working in real estate together, or how did that kind of all fall into play?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're in real estate now, and I've been in it for, I think this is my 17th year.
Wow.
No, it's never anyone's like first pick, right? Real estate's the one you kind of end up in. So it wasn't, we had a plan to move back home, and I kind of found real estate eventually. When I started working for Cabela's Trophy Properties, I had done some other things, and that's kind of where I found my niche in the property and selling both houses and land. And Jen got out and she kind of wanted to forge her own path. She has a master's in public administration. She worked in some nonprofit stuff. She worked in some recruiting areas. And finally, I convinced her that, hey, listen, we can build our own business and we can control our own time and our own success. And she finally jumped on board with me. I think in about 2015, she came on as a realtor. So now we work together with everything. But and we love it. We do other stuff. Real estate's our full-time gig. And she didn't know if we can work together, but we work pretty well together, I think. So
It seems like you
we
guys
kind of
make it
hit it
work.
up there. What's that?
I said it seems like you guys make it work all right. So
Yeah, I always say that, she's the boss at work, she's the boss at home, and it's easy for me because I know that I'm never in charge. I just do what I'm told.
that I think a lot of people could take that a lesson in that for sure. So, uh, like I guess I've got to kind of segue into talking a little bit more about real estate. Doppler's got a question that'll segue into this nicely, I think here. So,
Chris, what's something you learned from being in the NFL that actually you were surprised to see translate into the real estate and auctioneer world?
That's a good question. I would have to say, let me think about this for a second. Okay, very similar to being a real estate agent as being a NFL player is that you are continually being judged, and your success is dependent on your own actions, right? So as an NFL player, I could play for any team, right? So if the Giants would have cut me, I could have went and played for the 49ers or the Seahawks or the
sure,
Vikings or whoever. So your success is really dependent on how much work you're willing to put into it. It's very similar in the world of real estate, right? We don't as realtors and real estate agents and brokers, we don't eat unless we kill something, right? And it's the same thing as being like a free agent in the NFL. You're continually trying to get hired to someone to trust you to help them sell or buy real estate. And in the NFL, you're continually trying to prove you're valued so that they keep you or they can hire you. So I would say that, and then also the value of teamwork in the sense that we're agents, realtors, whatever you want to call us. And of course, we're the person that's kind of the point person, but we also have a lot of people that support us. And it was very similar in the NFL. You see the product that's out there on Sunday, but there's so many behind the scenes people that do a lot of the work. I mean, think about the trainers, the equipment guys, the video producers, the marketing and business people, the support system, and things like that. It kind of prepared me to, as a realtor, we're in the spotlight for what we do, but we also rely on a lot of other people. And it was very similar in the NFL, both within that team, but also within your own kind of support system at home. Who you worked out with, who you trained with, your chiropractor, your doctor, all those things like that. We have a similar system in real estate where we rely on the title people, the lenders, the appraisers, the inspectors, and things like that.
that's a great answer. I was wondering where you would take that, but I think that would make a whole lot of sense. Because yeah, we do like I mean, just within my first year in real estate, I'm so thankful to that you and I are able to have a partnership, and then we've got a great partnership with the American Legacy because there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes, and I could imagine it'd be the same in the NFL. But the way you put it, like the your success, you determine your own success in both of those industries. So that's really cool. So, okay, so 17 years in real estate now, and you started out with Cabela's, you mentioned. And how long were you with Cabela's?
I was with them for 4 years,
Hmm.
from 2010 to 2000 and the end of 2013. And when I got out of that is when Cabela's got out of the game, right? So
That's
Cabela's
right.
used to have their trophy properties, which really they weren't a brokers; they were just a brand for us to use. And
Sure.
the brokerage I was with, held the territories in Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, and Missouri. Not the whole states, but like the probably the Missouri River corridor. So we own those territories, and we got to use their brand and their website to promote our properties.
Nice.
Um, just the Cabela's brand was so huge in doing that. So I started out with Cabela's, and then once they got out of the game, it just changed a lot for me. And I was also at the point in my life where my kids were getting towards like middle school age, where they were in sports and dancing and all this other stuff that they were doing. And with land in 4 different states, I go 6 hours in each direction to try to sell property. And being able to stay home and be around my kids' activities was more beneficial. It's when I came over to, now it's Nebraska Realty, but it was Deeb Realty at the time. We rebranded a year or two after that.
Okay, gotcha. And so with the Cabela's, like you decided to get into the land game up front, and I know you're an avid outdoorsman as well, and you've also got yourself a bird dog, German Wirehair Pointer. What's her name again? I forget. I forget.
Scarlett.
Scarlet, that's right.
Yep.
Beautiful dog, and that was something else that between you and Jen and myself, we all were able to click on that with me having a bird dog as well. So, tell us, like, was outdoor life and hunting, was that always part of growing up for you, or was there a moment in life that kind of triggered that thought, man, I really enjoy being an outdoors type person?
No, I've been I don't know if avid's the right word, but I really like to hunt and fish and be in the outdoors. Um, and I've done that just growing up with my dad. We grew up deer hunting, duck hunting, bird hunting with my dad. My dad, we used to raise and breed and train Brittany's, right? So my dad
Right.
started the Brittany Club in Nebraska, and he also was a national field trial judge. So I spent a lot of my childhood at field trials, watching dogs get trained and all that stuff. So that's actually how I got into real estate because, getting out of the NFL, I was always looking at properties to hunt on, to purchase, or whatever it might be. And I kept on finding the Cabela's website. Had the number one ranked website. They were a great brand. And I just ended up meeting the guy who had the brokerage here. And that's, I was actually, when I first came out of the NFL, I had a couple of years of like dealing with some injuries. I had to have some surgeries and go through some of that kind of stuff. And I had been to Harvard Business School and to Kellogg School of Management for business degrees. And so I started my own company doing custom apparel where I'd make shirts like this.
Sure.
And when I met with a guy named Aaron Graham, who was the center back when the Huskers, way back when they were good, back in the 90s, and he owned the brokerage. So he's like, why don't you just sell real estate? So I signed up and took my real estate test and, never looked back from there. That's how I got into it. But I got into it originally for um, the outdoor aspect of it, just really enjoying that part of it. And it led me to a career in real estate, which I'm continuing to do today.
Awesome, awesome. So Doppler's got a kind of another follow-up question here that will kind of lead into this as well. So,
Chris, if your dog could speak, what would she have to say about her favorite hunting trips?
Her favorite hunting trips. I think she loves to run, man. I mean, if you got a bird dog out there, you know that I compare it to having a boat with a big motor, right? And you
that's
can,
a good way to look at it.
if you're on a no wake lake, you're kind of putzing along, but there's just something about putting the throttle down and going full speed, right? And that's just what she wants to do. It's like I got to get her out and get her to put the throttle down, and she just has to go full speed for a while. And she's getting up there. She's like I think 8 now, which isn't
Mhm.
old, but definitely some wear and tear on there, but she needs a certain amount of time to just get out and run. And when I can take her out in the woods and get her on some birds, that makes her even happier. So she loves it. And it's one of those things, I'm sure, like all of us have bird dogs, we wish we could take them out more. As far as letting them do what they were bred to do, but she just loves to be out there, and she's as happy as she can be when she's out in the field.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's so fun to watch a bird dog, or really any working dog for that matter. You see that instinct kick in, and just watching them work. It's something exciting about that, and the dog's out just loving it. So that's really cool. So what have been some of your more notable hunts over the years, like locations or big game or anything like that?
Yeah, it kind of falls into a few different categories. I grew up, of course, bird hunt with my dad, and the same thing. I was given that we raised Brittany's and just trained them. You go out there and sometimes you get to shoot birds, but most of the time you just get to watch your dog and get them work. I also grew up duck hunting a lot, just a little bit easier. You kind of get out there and put the decoys out and get set up. And I grew up hunting the river out by Gretna, the Platte River, and we wanted the river, man. It was hard work, but it was a lot of fun. Um, one of the things I really do every year is the Nebraska rifle season. Me and my dad and his friends grew up going out to the Fort Robinson Pine Ridge area in northwest Nebraska up in the Black Hills. And to this day, I go out there every year with my son. And we just it's my favorite place in the whole world, right? You're really in the middle of nowhere. It's beautiful. Sometimes you get deer, sometimes we don't, but we always have a good time. And it's nice to disconnect and be out there and enjoy nature.
There's something about a deer camp or a hunting camp that it really does reset you, doesn't it?
It is. And, when I've been deer hunting like by myself. Like when I was in Kansas City, I had buddies who had property. We go out hunting. It's fun to go out there by yourself, but I always have fun going out with other people.
Yeah.
Like you said, going to deer camp. It's a big event, right?
Hmm.
We sit there and we have to go a couple times and have a couple planning meetings. And
Sure.
we got to get all the
Sure.
food ready, and then we go out there. We get everything set up. It's like, okay, we go hunt all day, but like, what are we gonna have for dinner? And you
Right.
know, what are we gonna drink tonight? We're gonna play this card game or whatever it might be. It's definitely an event more than it is about the hunt. That's kind of the bonus part of it. But just getting together with your buddies and going out there and being men out in the outdoors. And
Exactly. Exactly. There's something primal about it to an extent, right? So, okay. So then, all right. So you've done a lot of hunting. We've been through football, and then you find Nebraska Realty, which wasn't Nebraska Realty before. What was the name of that one again before?
it was Deeb Realty, named
Okay.
after the founder, a guy named Van Deeb, who's been around here. But he sold it to our owner Andy. Oh, it's been a while now. So that eventually Nebraska Realty, the name came up, and that's where it came to. And then so when I came over from Cabela's, like during this whole time, I would still sell land, because people, so to this day, people still remember when I sold for Cabela's. That's how powerful that brand was.
Sure.
When you sell land, it's always very visual, right? It's deer hunting or whatever. People love it. They remember it. But I came into it. I sell mostly residential houses now. My wife and I do. This whole time I was telling Andy, I said, we need to just sell more land. We need a land division. So a few years ago, he actually did that, right? And he hired Brian North, who's our vice president for American Legacy Land Company. And Brian's oversees, we started out with was NR Land, right? So NR Land um, was basically ALSC, but we were in Nebraska and Iowa. And what happened is we brought out some really good agents. We started to sell some real estate, and we realized this brand isn't big enough, right? I remember I was trying to sign up an auction over in Iowa, and my competitors are asking, and even the clients are like, why are you we using NR Land to sell your land? Like they're not from Iowa. So that's how ALLC was born. We started a sister company to Nebraska Realty, and we're a separate brokerage, but now we're in like 10 states, right? We really have taken on a brand that's resonating with people. We have hired or brought on a lot of really, really good agents throughout all those
Tons of
states.
great, tons
And
of great
we are
people.
in that market now to sell land, and we're doing pretty well with it.
So, and like, what do you think it is about American Legacy that sets us apart from your other land brokers, from our competition?
Yeah, well, I mean, we do a lot of things similar, but there's a couple things I mean, I think we have one of the highest brand standards when it comes to marketing our clients' properties. And the way I relate this is, if you hire me to sell your house, it's going to go in the MLS and there's, the room sizes and bedrooms and bathrooms and colors and amenities and things like that. And it's going to be in there with a couple thousand other houses, right? And there's another realtor's going to see it, and houses transact every day, right? People move every 4 or 5 times in their life. It's a big deal, but when you go to help people buy or sell land, that's like a generational deal,
Yes.
right? And it's much more emotional, and it's a bigger deal, right? I mean, you can just build another house. They're not going to build another farm. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I think that we really do a great job we have a very, very high brand standard for how we present our properties and then how we distribute and help buyers find our properties. We use every resource imaginable to do that. It's much more than just an MLS like a city, right? We're very local, but we're also regional, national, and international, which is where you have to go to find buyers of very unique properties. So that's a big thing. A lot of companies do that well. I think we do it as well or better than anyone. And then I would also say that we are super selective in the agents that we bring on at American Legacy. You were at our annual meetings here last month, and we're so spread out at American Legacy that we don't often get to see everyone, right?
Sure.
So maybe
No.
once a year we might get together, and we had guys from Minnesota all the way down to Oklahoma and everywhere in between. And I was amazed at what Brian and our company has done in terms of being selective on the kind of agents we bring in. We have some very, very high quality agents, both in what they do professionally, but who they are as people. So I can
Sure.
say that in our company, we are very selective. You're going to get a great agent who's going to treat you well, and you're going to have all the resources or more than anyone else has. And that's kind of what we've kind of hang our hat on at American Legacy Land Company.
Yeah, it's definitely that was one of the things that definitely attracted me to the group was just the the presentation up front of everything that it's like we want to push out as much information as we possibly can about your property. We want to do it professionally. We want to make sure it's everywhere it can be. And again, like just the support system that you were talking about earlier, the
Mhm.
support system for all of these agents, that we've got a lot of great agents out there, but like uh, if I have a question, I know who I'm calling, and if you happen to be busy, I can, there's a list of 4 or 5 other people that I can call if I need that answer real quick. So to follow up to that, like, because I get this question when I talk about being a land agent on socials and stuff, I'll often get the question like, how do you become a land agent? Like, what would your to someone that was thinking about getting into real estate, what would be your pitch to them and why they should look into ALLC?
Yeah, obviously we are selective with who we got, right? It doesn't mean you can't start. You got to start somewhere, right?
Right.
I would say if you want to truly be a real estate agent, you have to number one be willing to put in the work because it's a lot of work that no one sees. Right, I related that to football, right? All the work that you do, like in the off season and the film study and stuff, it shows up when you get a chance to, go under the spotlight on the field. It's the same thing with real estate, right? Going out and finding the business and learning about the business and things like that. But the first thing, obviously, is to understand that you are going to be of service to other people, right?
Yep.
That's the biggest. I think people get in real estate, and like you said, you met my wife, who was our recruiter for Nebraska Realty and American Legacy, right? Because obviously you fit there, so you got placed with American Legacy. But you really need to understand that yes, you don't have a boss. You can work as little or as much as you want, but if you want to succeed in this business, you need to be able to provide value and service to people, and that's what they'll pay you for. So you have to have that servant mindset to say, how can I truly be of service to my clients and get them to trust me enough to hire me so I can make a living doing this. So you have to have that kind of servant's mentality. And then I think, you know, the land side is definitely more nuanced than it is just in the realtor side. In the
Sure.
realtor side, there's a million realtors, right? In Omaha, there's 3,000, right? But land agents are fewer and farther between. And it's because land is very fluid as far as like what can happen. Like if you go to sell your house or to buy a house, there's a system that is pretty much like check marks. You go up and down the list. Okay, we make an offer, we get an inspection, we have an appraisal, stuff like that. With land, and in the years I've been doing this, every single thing that you could possibly imagine happens with land, right? There's just so many variables. So you do need someone with experience, or at least someone who's backed by people with experience to be a land agent. It takes a lot of time to gain that experience. And you got to kind of go through it for a while until you get that knowledge.
Well, and to that point, I wonder what you would say about this, but it clearly also takes a lot of persistence in this job,
Mm.
especially up front. And this just from my experience, when I decided to get my real estate license, somebody mentioned to me, Tyler, on average, 80% of new realtors will fail to sell a listing in their first year. And those
Mm.
aren't great numbers. I managed to fit myself into that statistic, unfortunately. But it seems that persistence is key. So, like, what's your sage words for the new realtor like myself that is a year in and is maybe not seeing the fruit of the labor that they were expecting to see? Like what?
Yeah, I would say that, what you're really trying to establish is like a baseline or a foundation for your success as you go forward. Very rarely does it happen right away for most realtors or real estate agents. The same thing happened to me, right, when I started the business because, you want to get people to hire you and trust you to take the thing that they own, which is probably the biggest thing and the most important asset in their life, a tangible asset, and say, I'm going to trust you to go and get the most money for this and advise me on this. Well, if you don't have a lot of experience, you're not going to get hired very much. So I look at it as where all these times and these contacts you're making with people to, prospect and make your phone calls and stay in touch and network with people is really just kind of like planting seeds, right? You're putting seeds in the ground and they're not going to grow right away, right? They need a lot of nurturing, a lot of caring, and you got to continue to do that because at some point, we've gotten to the point in our real estate career where we have enough past clients and referral sources where we just nurture those and they help feed our business. And it takes a while to do that because how often do people need to sell or buy land or to buy real estate? It doesn't happen, but every 5 to 7 years. And again, if it's land, it's like every generation.
Right.
So you just have to be the person that's top of mind when that need does arise. And it takes a lot of relationship building to become that trusted person. So it's something that if people are willing to stick with it and do it the right way and build those relationships, then those opportunities come and they start coming pretty fast once the ball gets rolling. It's just a matter of continuing to do the activities that generate business, all the while learning the business. And then once people start seeing you as that trusted resource, that's when your phone starts ringing and people start saying yes to you.
That's awesome. Yeah. Like you said, but just it takes persistence and you have to believe that you can do it. But you also mentioned the practices, not word for word, but like what are the things you have to do every day that,
Mhm.
are putting you in the steps for success, right? Or in that path for success for sure. So, okay. Well, I promised to try to keep these right around 30 minutes. We've covered a lot. Something I always like to do towards the end of the episode. Are there any, since we're animal based, relatively
Yeah.
speaking, are there any, animal shelters or, rescues or anything that you are, like to give a shout out to or anything like that? Any place that's near and dear to your heart?
Oh gosh, the only one I don't have any like experience with like rescues or anything like that, but we do have a Skyline Veterinary here in Elkhorn, Nebraska. There's also one in Papillion. They've been great for us. If you have a dog that you have to take to the vet, you develop a special relationship with those people eh, because you're taking it's like your child in
Oh yeah.
there. You want to see them take great care of them. So they've done really really well for us as far as that goes. So that's our favorite vet around here, Skyline Vet. Um, and then we got some great people that we help. There's a buddy of mine who has a business called Homebound Hounds, I think it is. And they can we've used them to come out and kind of take care of our dogs when we have to go out of town or
Oh,
something like that.
nice.
They'll do all kinds of stuff. They'll walk your dog and do stuff like that. So there's a couple. I think it's Housebound Hounds is what it's called. Yeah, there's actually an agent in Nebraska Realty that owns that. So
No kidding.
Yep. So I'll send you the link just to promote
Yeah,
there.
please,
They
please
do
do.
they do a great job in this area of and we had them watch our dogs a couple weeks ago and every time they went over there they let them out. We got a report like a text like Scarlett went outside and she went poop and then Scout went pee and they came in and then they did this and then they were very happy to see us and they went in their kennel like they're very good at keeping you up to date.
Gives you that
And
peace of mind, huh?
yeah, and it's not something we're pretty chill, you know what I mean? But I can imagine there's some dog owners that want to know every single thing that their dog goes. So they overdo it. It's a good lesson as far as like realtors go, is they over communicate. And, we can appreciate that. It's better than not hearing from them at all.
For sure. Okay, nice. All right, and then before we wrap this up, something that you're very passionate about, I know, is your coaching in the Bober Academy, and the social medias that you do. You've been doing social media since 2010 for the Bober Academy. Is that right?
Well, that's for
Sure.
Boulder Academy because that's about a 5 or 6 year
Okay.
process. I started, so when social media kind of came about, when I first got into real estate in 2010, it's when I started my YouTube page
Okay.
for Team Bober. That's the oldest one. And I will say this, I need to definitely be more consistent like we all do with social media.
It's
But my
tough.
best videos that have gotten the most follows are my recipe videos,
You mentioned
right?
that to me once.
Yes, and people just love it, and because I love to cook, it's the only artistic thing that I can do is cook. And I've done like deer recipes, and a lot of barbecue, and the one that has the most plays, it's got over 100,000 plays, is my fried sauerkraut and Polish sausage
Oh, damn.
video. And I did that in like 2015, and like about every week or every other week, I still get comments on it. And
That's
some
awesome.
people hate it, right? Some people are like, "You can't do this. You shouldn't wash your sauerkraut, or why don't you do this?" I'm like, "Thank you. Keep clicking. Keep
It's
giving me
social media,
comments."
right?
Yeah, yeah. So I started doing that, 15, 16 years ago when it was first kind of coming on. Now everyone does it. You know what I mean? But I also laugh because my kids go back and watch my first couple of videos, and of course it was started with my Cabela's business, and I would like it's like I'm reading from a postcard here saying, "Hello, my name I sell land." And I just done them for so long and they become like second nature because I got my podcast for real estate, I got one for football. But yeah, Bober Academy, football is my passion. I love helping people and selling real estate in the outdoors. But as someone who played 19 years of football, I do have a Bober Academy, which is where I train offensive linemen. I also publish, videos and articles and stuff like that. And then I coach high school football, which keeps me busy, especially during the fall.
Yeah, yeah, I imagine so. So that's awesome, man. What I appreciate about you is that you've taken that coaching mindset from athletics and football, and you do very well with our team, as
Mhm.
because in a sense you're a coach to a lot of us, to the agents as our broker. I mean, we have a biweekly call, and then of course we have you're not biweekly, every other week call, and we get one-on-one coaching sessions, and I appreciate that about you because you do a great job at encouraging people to to keep working hard, and especially when there's hangups in the processes that we especially like younger guys like myself maybe didn't see coming. So
Yeah, high school football has taught me how to be a coach. I was a great instructor for a long time, but what I have to learn about coaching is how to speak a language that the people I'm coaching can understand. And that happened to me when I started Bober Academy, then I started coaching high school football. I'm like, I come from the NFL. Like, here's how we do this, and these high school kids will look at me like, "What are you talking about?"
yeah, that
Right?
just
So I had to break it down to the most simple fundamental process, and really get into the fundamentals, which is kind of how success happens in whichever business or sport you're in.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Chris, this has been a lot of fun. I want to say thank you. We're going a little bit over time. I hope I didn't eat up too much of your time today, but
No, no, I have the gift of gab, man. I could talk all day about this
well,
stuff.
absolutely. Well, I know because you and I tend to spend 30 plus minutes on the phone once a week anyway, bullshitting about one thing or another. So,
Yeah.
but no, this has been great. I really appreciate you taking the time. We'll have to hop on again sometime. But yeah, I think people are going to love this. It'll go out on tomorrow night around 5 o'clock.
Okay.
So, and then like you and I were having the conversation yesterday, I need to dive into a couple more different apps so that I can make my life a little bit easier. So, I need to take some advice from you after your years of podcasting as well. So, before
Yeah.
we go, what like what are the tags for your podcast and like where people could find you on social media?
Well, for my tags, my handles is just at Bober Academy and at Team Bober, right? Those are for all my socials, and it's the same tag for my YouTube channels and everything like that. And we have podcasts on multiple platforms and stuff like that too. So if you find Team Bober Bo, Team Bober or Bober Academy, it's out there. And I also have, all those have websites, boberacademy.com, teambober.com, and then I also have chrisbober.com. So from any of those, you should be able to navigate to find my stuff. And I tell people, if you can spell my name, you can find me. And maybe that's why I get so many phone calls about health insurance and trying to sell me stuff, because my stuff's out there everywhere.
Is your name too easy to spell? That's what it is.
Yeah, I'm too easy to find, I guess.
That's a good problem to have in your line of work. So for
Yeah,
sure.
except for all the phone calls and the spam.
Yeah. Well, those just keep getting worse in my experience. So,
Oh yeah.
but, well, hell yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Chris Bober of Nebraska Realty and of American Legacy Land Co. of Team Bober of Bober Academy. Thanks. Such a pleasure for having you. I really appreciate it. I'm glad we can sit down and do this. So now we just got to get our dogs well trained up enough for next season so we can go out and kill something. So,
There you go.
good
All right,
deal.
man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you so much, boss. We'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
All right. Have a good one.